Good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Ongoko, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Manhattan Beach Residents Association, I would like to thank you all for coming tonight. From time to time, MBRA will host community informational meetings on relevant topics of interest to the residents. Tonight's topic is the expansion of Manhattan Beach Middle School and its potential effect on Polliwog Park. So tonight, we have a number of guests. The first is Ellen Rosenberg, a trustee of the Manhattan Beach Unified School District. She'll be giving a presentation. The format for tonight is that each side will give a 10-minute presentation, followed by a Q&A session. So, I'm sorry, can you not hear me? No? Do I need to be louder? Okay. Is that better? Yes. Okay. So the format for tonight will be that there will be two 10-minute presentations, roughly, followed by a Q&A session. During the Q&A, the public will be allowed, each of you will be allowed to ask a question. Some of you have opted to write questions. We've also received, thank you. We've also received a number of questions by email, so I'll be asking on behalf of those residents. So as I was saying, introductions, Ellen Rosenberg, trustee of MBUSD. We also have with her Karen Komatinsky, who's also a trustee. We have Dr. Donalyn Morikawa-Leopard, who's the chief business officer of the MBUSD, and Kevin Fleming, who's the lead architect of the DLR group. Presenting for the Friends of Polliwog Park is Julie Profet, the chair of FOP. She's accompanied by Stephanie Robbins, who will also be helping her to field some questions afterwards.
Thank you, Joseph.
All right, so without further ado, here's Julie Profet.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight to learn more about this issue. And thanks to Esther, Manhattan Beach Residents Association over there, for organizing this informational meeting. I've never been to one of these before, but it's a great turnout. And great. So a month ago, when I was first invited to come here, we had what we thought was the final plan. But since then, the school board has done some revisions, and it's less impactful of the park. We're glad for that. So we'll talk a little bit about both. I'll talk a little bit about both those plans tonight. But first, we'll talk about Friends of Polliwog Park. And our mission for Friends of Polliwog Park is to preserve the open space and tranquility of Polliwog Park and the livability of its surrounding neighborhood. Everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Good. So, all the other large parks in Manhattan Beach are programmed for team sports. Polliwog Park is our city's one and only nature park. It's the most heavily used park we have, drawing from large crowds from all over Southern California who make family memories in the beautiful settings for concerts, plays, picnics and parties, and the games that go with them. Its valuable green space provides a perfect place to unwind stress, absorb the beauty and tranquility of nature, connect with friends and family, which of course all increases our health, happiness, and well-being. Its 8 different ecosystems provide habitat for 153 species of birds and other wildlife. And it's also used as a wonderful outdoor classroom for life sciences for many of the preschools and grade schools in the area. But the primary purpose of Polliwog Park has always been a stormwater retention basin. Yes, in 1958, people were water skiing in Polliwog. This is a map of the watershed. Polliwog Pond is the small green area. Polliwog Park, excuse me, is a small green area, and the whole shaded area drains into Polliwog Park. It goes all the way from, that's Rosecrans on the north, almost to Artesia on the south, Aviation on the east, and that northwest corner almost hits Sepulveda, so it's a really large area of East Manhattan that drains into the park. And if you've ever been to the park after a rain, you've probably seen the retention basin doing its job. holding the rain till we can pump it out into the ocean. Now that rainwater, excuse me, sometimes the infrastructure function is overwhelmed and it floods the surrounding neighborhoods to the north and east of the park with the rainwater. This is a very serious problem because the water that rolls off the roofs from everywhere in the watershed, it picks up pesticides, it goes into the yards, picks up pesticides, fertilizers, pet waste, viruses and bacteria that come with that, and then it goes over the gutters and picks up all of the toxic waste from our cars, from the streets, the oil leak, the other fluid leaks, the brake pad dust, the tire dust, and then it drains into the pond and then it's into the neighborhood when it floods. So, floods like this don't just mean water damage to this neighborhood, they're serious contamination and health threats to the health of our community. We've had 2 of these floods, by the way, in the last 20 years. One was 1995, the other was 2000. So the residents are obviously quite concerned by the school board's their plan to decrease even more permeable land in this important storm water basin. The location of the middle school 17 years ago resulted in 3 to 4 acres of permeable land loss. That means that this area that used to be grass and absorb water and hold it, now just runs right into the pond. So this, by the way, is not the final plan. This was the June 3rd that we thought would be final. But this I have to talk to this. I'll go this way. So, this is 28,000 square feet. This is their 750-seat theater and multi-purpose room. So that's over a half an acre of permeable land loss right there. And also the red trees that are popping up everywhere, those were in the way of construction, moving the fields around. So those would have all had to be ripped out. And those are also, trees are an integral part of the stormwater basin because they have deep roots and they hold a lot of water. So that's a big concern. Of course, park users were concerned about losing this flat grassy play area and the workout station. This area of the park is the only area where people can really kick a ball instead of a volleyball court, play frisbee, because everything else is really slanted. So this is the most heavily used for family picnics and games. So we were relieved I'm over here now. When the school board let us know that they had made some revisions to the final plan, which makes it less intrusive into the park. They took 6,000 square feet off of the Performing Arts Center, although it's 22,000 square feet now, which still seems really large. And some people wonder if we really need it that large, but it would save some of these trees by being that small, which was really, that's important habitat. We're concerned though that, of course, the construction of this big building may not actually end up saving the trees after all, because it's pretty close. While the right size pool is still to be determined, should the community support a new pool, then Friends of Polliwog assert that a pool size to attract regional competitions, like the Olympic size that was first proposed, would create a serious negative impact for the park and its neighbors. This is a drawing of a pool that was funded to be built in El Segundo, between El Segundo and Weisburn Olympic Pool Stadium. And just to get an idea of the size of events that are expected at Olympic-sized pools, they're planning on 900 spectator seats and 500 athlete seats. And that doesn't include, of course, there's the capacity of people in the pool, 250 or so. So it brings a lot of people and a lot of teams. Dozens of teams usually compete at Olympic pools at the same time, which means frequent announcements on PA systems. Sometimes they use PA systems now at Big Pool, and the sound saturates the whole park. Not only that, but several blocks into the neighborhoods. So the thought of having those impact the park and neighborhood like that is just something we don't think should be there. The purpose of those Olympics pools are usually for huge events, and we think they need appropriate commercial zones, not a neighborhood park. Just within the past year, Polliwog has come under siege from a variety of proposals. In the past year, the plans have included this bicycle path going right through the flat grassy area, a skateboard park, a heritage square, and the Olympic pool, new parking lot, and the auditorium were in this location in the school board's first plan. If these proposals had gone through, there wouldn't be much of a park left. Some people see this green space as wasted space. But in addition to its underlying function as a stormwater retention basin, Polliwog is already hard-pressed into service for our community. You can see all it does for our community on this list. But even when it's empty of humans, its ecosystems are teeming with wildlife, contributing to our planet. We need to be smart about this space. It's not a blank slate waiting for change. It's valuable green space just as it is. The city of Los Angeles now recognizes its mistakes of their past and is spending over $1 billion to remove 11 miles of concrete that they poured decades ago to constrain the LA River. They say that the main purpose of the costly removal of all that concrete is to restore the river's natural marshy environment so it can improve the quality of life in their city by creating more open green space and habitat, wildlife habitat. We hope that the school district, which owns this land, has leadership that will do more environmental impact studies as they implement any new plans. And you can help us save Polliwog Park by sharing this information you've learned tonight with your friends, neighbors, family, and commit to leaving this park a nature park for future generations to enjoy it. Thank you.
We'll just take a few minutes to turn over the presentation. In the meantime, if I could just ask anybody that hasn't signed in to identify themselves, and Erin should be able to get you signed in. We do have 2 sign-in sheets if you were wondering. So the first sign-in sheet is for the Residents Association so that we can keep you apprised of upcoming community meetings. The second one is the school board is trying to compile information on people not unlike myself who aren't on their lists. So perhaps if you don't have children that are currently in the school district, you wouldn't be on their list. So I encourage you to sign up to get the latest information from them on their plans. Thank you.
Thank you. As said before, I'm Ellen Rosenberg. I'm on the Manhattan Beach Unified School District Board, and I'm in my second term on the board. I have 3 kids in our schools, 2 of which have graduated, and I'm happy to be here tonight, and I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, for MBRA for making it happen, for FOPP for their shepherding the park, and also making this dialogue happen. And thank you so much for caring. This is more than we get at a board meeting, so it's pretty exciting to have this audience. We've introduced the members from our team from the district itself and from our consultant DLR, and we have been working with them for the last 6 months on a facilities master plan. We're going to be quick because we have 10 minutes, but we have plenty of time for Q&A so we can drill down further when that comes. So if it seems like I'm rushing a bit, it's just to try to fit into that timing. On a very high level, first of all, I recognize that the topic of this meeting is focused very much on the middle school in Polliwog. But what I do want to clarify is that we have been going through a 6-month-long facilities master plan that addresses the entire district, all 8 of our school sites, in addition to some our non-school sites like the maintenance and operations yard. So this is what we're talking about tonight regarding the middle school in Polliwog is just one component of an overall project. The purpose of really is just to have an informed approach to how we manage our facilities, how we address, taking good care of them, because a positive environment is important to the learning experience, and how we plan for the future, again, in an educated manner. So that is the purpose today. And education is always evolving, and the ways in which we deliver education to the students is evolving, and in some cases that calls for changes in what a classroom or a school building looks like, and other forces that come to bear on it, technology, and other theories in education. So that is part of the change as well, because we don't want to just keep up, we want to exceed what's happening in education in our schools. It's a lot of what drives the success of our community. And so that's why it's important to us to understand what's going on with all of our facilities. With that, I know this is a bit of a busy slide, but it's just a little bit of history, because I know I forget some of these things sometime, and not everyone, has lived in this neighborhood all of their lives, but we're talking about our different school sites. The preschool, which was built in 53, as you'll see here, is just west of the park, and at one time I believe it was part of an original middle school site. During one of our renovation periods, we used it as a transition site. It's had some levels of modernization, and has almost 400 students. It's a very popular aspect of our community. Grandview Elementary, which also is coupled with Ladera, Grandview up on the hill, Ladera down below. The longest in place, 1939. Someone's shaking their head back there. Is it in here? Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, thank you. Is that better? Yes. Where is it? I'm doing it. That's pretty exciting. Thank you for letting me know that. I thought you were disagreeing with the year, so as well as Ladera, which has the Grandview portion of that campus has been through some modernization. Ladera less so. And then we have Meadows Elementary School, and I won't go through all of it here, but you can just see the ages, the attendance levels, and where we are with all of our schools. Most of them, with the exception of the middle school, are built in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So it may be a little surprising of why is the middle school even coming up, because it is our youngest site. And that's a reasonable question. You can see there, just by the addition of relocatables, we've had a growth in population. That school was scaled for about 1,100 students, and we are over 1,500. So that's driving part of this. And we also use facilities across Polliwog Park at the pool and other areas that are not adjacent to, but part of our campus use. So the next two slides, Delinka Group was someone that DLR retained to do enrollment projection studies. This first slide you'll see basically just covers 2001 to 2015, so that up until today. And this is just to make a point that like anything, there are cycles. We have cycles in attendance. And you'll see we go from about 6,300 to almost 6,900 students in the cycle that is just ending in this observation in 2015. Things cycle up, things cycle down. You can think of it as a sideways S-curve. And so we are definitely experiencing a high point and coming off of that. Delinka was asked to project out 10 years. That's what the next slide will show you. And like any cycle, there's cycles up and cycles down. It does show some moderate taking off. You'll see it ending up in 2025 at 6,500 students. We by no means think that's going to continue on a downward trend, but we do acknowledge that things go up and things go down. And I think what's most important, particularly when it comes to the middle school, as you'll see by the gray band in the middle, that going from 1,500 to about 1,350, we still are well over what it was scaled for, which was about 1,100 students. And then obviously there's information about the elementary and the high school as well. The next few slides are really just to illustrate that we did ask a lot, have a lot of site-specific, parent-specific, and community-specific input in this effort that's taken place the last 6 months. But we definitely recognize that we want to do more interaction with the non-parent population. One of the reasons that we're asking you to sign up for now, we don't have electronic access to folks outside of the district, and it's very costly to do mailings in addition to not particularly environmentally sensitive. So we encourage you to sign up. We'd be happy to share what's going on. We've had some feedback, I didn't know this was happening, or why haven't I heard about this? And it's hard to reach everybody all the time outside of our immediate parent base that we have access to very readily. So we want to do a better job of that, and another reason why we're happy to see you here tonight. But this just illustrates, some of the different meetings that were held, different sessions that were held, a variety of different topics. Excuse me, I'm gonna grab a water. And then these show the number of campus and community-related meetings. The Turtle is our preschool, the Granby Gator, the Meadows Mustangs, the Pacific Panthers, the Pennicamp Dragons, the Robinson Riptides, and the middle school and the high school. These are the meetings that took place specifically with those groups that happened as well. And about almost, a little over 900 people were involved in the process that has taken place over the last 6 months. Towards gathering the information about what the community, the student community, the parent community, the outside community, things we need and things we want for the district, in addition to the hard information about, what are the actual facility needs based on wear, tear, and keeping them in viable condition. I'd like to invite up Kevin Fleming with DLR. DLR is an architectural firm. Kevin and actually Virginia Marquardt, who is here as well today, are from their K-12 division of that organization. And they have worked very hard throughout the last 6 months with us, guiding us through the process of gathering information, of engaging with other organizations that assess the facilities, and that helped us design what our goals were, what our methodologies were going about this. Kevin is an architect, and sometimes when people hear the word architect, they think things are final. Some of the diagrams and the designs that you're going to see are very, very preliminary, and that's kind of a key message that I want to put out. We are so early in this process. The fact that we have designs, very preliminary designs, ideas for our 8 school sites just means that we have ideas. By all means, not all of that is necessarily going to happen, and it will be very much a collaborative, mutual effort to decide what does happen, what will be the next steps, what is the community interested in having there. So we're all in this together, and again, it makes me very happy to see so many people interested at such an early stage of the game. One disclaimer there, we may not have the answers to every single question tonight because this is so preliminary, but again, we're very happy to have this interaction. So with that, thank you, Kevin.
Just so everybody knows, this is my thesis project when I graduated. So what I want to run through is we did a master plan with all of the input from the community and the students and the faculty and the administration for each one of the campus. So I'm not going to explain them, but I want everybody to kind of see and be aware of what the master plans look like, because they took into consideration not only the existing facility conditions, but how do we make the campuses more effective, more safe for the students, for drop-off, for pickup, for fencing, and then every one of these schools share their playfields and everything else with the community. So in a certain sense, they're all like little parks for the neighborhoods and the community. So we wanted to make sure that we addressed each one of those issues as we went through the. So the first one I'm going to go through is just the preschool, and this is obviously in contingent with Polliwog Park. So these are all divided up. Each one of the arrows, if anybody's aware of the district website, has the master plan pointed. Every one of those has a cost associated with it, because the whole point was to develop the vision and then understand what the parameters of that vision was. And that's this step. That's all we did.
Kevin, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you just indicate what streets are where? Because all we're seeing is a block, but can you just say, like, this is Pepper, this is Heritage, just something so we know where we are?
Okay, for a lot of those you'll probably be more familiar, but on this particular one, this is Peck. And then the front of the school is 14th and 15th that come in and do the loop up there. So we're reconfiguring all the parking and drop off to eliminate the crowding in the neighborhoods at the crucial points we're proposing to. None of this is done.
More specifically, that site is actually between Begg Pool and Meadows Elementary. It's kind of in the crest of the hill that you would see between those two facilities. So on this side, there's homes here on 14th Street, and then you have Manhattan Beach Boulevard. So Manhattan Beach Boulevard is about a block out from to the south of this picture.
Okay. Okay, Grandview Ladera site, if everybody's oriented, you're going to help me with all of the street names because I don't remember them for every campus. But
It's north or south, pardon me, of Sand Dune. So
yeah.
this is Vista, 24th Street, and Bell is the one that's on an angle.
And again, I don't want to get into explain, each one of these is a 10-minute conversation in and of themselves. So, okay.
Yeah, Polliwog Park.
Okay, so my intent was to go through these quickly just to show that each one of these sites have a proposed master plan that falls into it. And then as we get to the end, we come to the Manhattan Beach Middle School master plan. So what I wanted to go through today is we did 4 iterations of this plan with various different activities and groups. And it's not until we got to the final one, we finally got to sit down with Polliwog Park Friends of one-on-one to really understand all the concerns. So a little bit of what I did going into this, because I wanted to really understand, is when the district purchased the land in 1957, there was an elementary school there that was operating for 20 years until it closed in 1980. And 1972, it took that long for the district and the city to come to grips with the transfer of the lease so they can develop Polliwog Park. And then the park was dedicated in 76, so they built it over a 4 or 5 year period. And then the school opened at the middle school, and they tore down the elementary school and built the middle school in that area in 1998. And it has only really received relocatables since it opened, 9 of them, I believe. So the first plan, which was a very naive approach from my point of view, being as the architect, was saying, okay, where is the best area to build? And a flat area is the best area to build. So we said, okay, if we're going to increase the capacity of the school or get rid of the reloads and actually get their programs up and running for a 1,500 student school instead of 1,100, we proposed that. And then there was talks with the community and the city over the years about Begg Pool being in desperate need of replacement. And part of the school's plans was they didn't like all the students walking all the way across Polliwog Park to utilize the pool as part of the PE program. So, oh, great solution. Let's just put it closer to the campus, right? As we all know, that did not go over too well. And it just says that even as an architect in planning, we all learn as we go through this. So the next step, we said, okay, let's not really touch too much of Polliwog Park with our understanding it being the pond and everything else. So if we had to do something with the playfield area, let's move the new building back up into the playfield area so it's not affecting the park. Let's put the pool in the far corner so it's as far away from any homes as possible.
Yeah.
And then expand the playfield areas accordingly so that the Manhattan Beach Middle School still had the same amount of playfields. Well, that's neglecting looking at what that actually still did to the park property. And then we had the 18th Street meeting, which they said, we don't want a building backing up against our houses. So we went through that one, and that was a very, very informative meeting as we went through as well. So the next step was saying, okay, let's respect the green space at the north to separate the neighborhood from the park and the school. And we still had to deal with how do we increase, because their current multi-purpose room holds a fraction of the student population. And ideally, with the way education is taught and the way the popularity of their band and choral programs, that building was one of their #1 priorities. They really needed a multi-purpose space that could seat half the school population, which is what the original one was trying to
When
do.
you say that building, can you just help me here?
This one.
You don't have a laser light, I take it.
No, I had one, but the batteries are dead, so I can't do anything about it.
Kevin, do you think that we could go through in about 2 minutes or so?
I'm almost done.
Okay, perfect. Just, I want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered.
Okay.
I can't figure out a question if I don't know what is written.
And we'll go back to the plans when you have questions as well. You want to go through? So this still reconfigured the play areas because in my mind I thought, oh, it's great, we can put an extra play field, thinking that was a benefit. And then, you know, what we finally sat down with the Friends of Polliwog Park, understood the issues and the importance of really not touching the habitat park, keeping the maturity there. This was the final plan that we came up with when we were talking. And it downsized the C building there to 23,000 square feet, which is, it's basically a 750 student multi-purpose room with a stage attached and then the music program attached to that. And then the only building in the park that would be proposed, and this is a proposed, this isn't even part of the proper master plan, is to rebuild Big Pool in the parking lot of the existing Big Pool, and then rebuild the dog park and the connection up to the new parking areas. And then make sure anything we do with paving is pervious so it all absorbs the water and helps with the runoff. And this we all came to a conclusion as talking with the Friends of Polliwog Park. So this tries to very tread lightly on the park. This one's still me? Okay, when we went through and did all of the costing associated with this is the, what are the parameters? The parameters are, I'll show you 2 slides. $50 million if we do nothing but maintain the buildings over the next 15 to 20 years. Or if everything was done, the wish list in the world, it costs $319 million. So that's not saying that that's what the master plan is. That's just saying this is what it costs after this exercise to define what they were. And then here is the facility assessment just to keep the buildings maintained in their current state would run $50 million at the same time frame that a building program for 350 or 319 million would go. So there's no cost on this. These were just looking at from 0 to whatever. We wanted to know what the whatever was. Now I think we're ready. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I know you guys are eager to ask questions and to drill down more on Polliwog specifically. The purpose of this slide is really just, you know, there have been bonds in the city already, you know, for the school district already. Most recently, we just finished up this year Measure BB. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but we have, we feel very good about the bond that we just completed, Measure BB, which was focused on the high school, the math science building, the renovation of classrooms, the addition of a performing arts space and a small theater, and the student quad with the cafeteria annex, as well as two that occurred earlier. Very quickly, Measure A basically built the middle school and did a modernization to all 5 elementary schools, including the reopening of Robinson. Measure M was also at Mira Costa High School and also included the district office, and enough about that. And then really the purpose of this slide is there is an amount of bonding that is allowable through formulas in the city. The dollar amount of this total that Kevin just shared exceeds that. We are realistic that that's unlikely that that's going to happen. It's just information. What also is on here as well is that there are potential state funds that can come to bear. There are components of the project that we may look toward private fundraising, specifically the athletic complex at the high school. And particularly when it comes to Polliwog Park, there's a possibility that the city will participate. So there's lots of different ways this may happen. But again, none of it will happen until we go out and have many more meetings like this and decide what the priorities of the community are and where we intersect in terms of dollar amounts and what actually is proposed to do, which will be a multi-year process. None of this is happening tomorrow or even next year. And with that, I thank you very much, and we will proceed to the question. Thanks.
All right. So, you're going to have to jump up to the mic at any rate. All right, so we're going to begin the question and answer session. I do have some questions that were phoned in and emailed in to the Residents Association. I can begin with a few of those as the rest of you formulate. If any of you are, for any reason, uncomfortable or unable unable to speak, if any of you would prefer that I read your question for you, feel free to write it down. Some of you already have. You can pass it to Erin, who's there in the black. And she'll be happy to gather those questions and I'll read them for you. Is there anyone who has a burning question that would like to ask it first? Yes, go ahead. I'll repeat.
This is a facilities master plan, is that correct?
Correct.
How often are these done? When was the last one done?
We need a microphone.
Repeat your question.
The question is, this is a facilities master plan, and when was the last one done? And, I've been in this district, as a parent since 2000 and on the school board for 6 years. And this is the first of its nature that I've witnessed.
No, they did that in '95, in the '90s, to go out with the first bond. There was a study of all the facilities and money attached to it, which was a lot more than the amount we went out with bonds. So it was back in that time. I don't know what it's planned right now.
It's at 95.
95.
Yes.
The response from the audience was that this facilities planning process was done in 95 prior to previous law.
Is the small type on this chart a sequence of what will be done in what order? The type I cannot read?
Oh, this type here?
Yes.
It does not represent a sequence, it's simply alphabetical at this point, because there's no prioritization by facility.
In the back, Carol.
You mentioned that should we proceed with the plan, and the cost would be $319 million, as opposed to the 51 million or whatever to maintain the buildings. Does that mean if you proceed with the 319 million, does that erase the maintenance of the existing building, or is that absorbed into the 319 million?
Yeah. The question, I believe, was if they want to head with the facility master plan with the 319 million, would the 50 million be erased from that? And the answer is in a sliding format, depending on the time frames. And there's 3 categories, I believe, to the facility assessment that arrived at 50 million. The first one is $2.9 million in immediate needs, meaning things that should be done rather quickly within the next few years. But the rest of it would definitely be offset dramatically by the facility master plan.
Next question.
One thing I'm personally very interested in is seeing access to a bigger pool, but I haven't known about that plan for El Segundo Weisberg. Can you tell us where that's located, when it's supposed to be built, and whether it will be publicly available?
I don't know all those answers. I can only tell you where it will be on Nash, just north of El Segundo Boulevard. So about 2.5 miles from Polliwog. The rest, I'm not sure. I know they're constructing, maybe Ellen knows something about it. Do you know what the construction is? Oh, okay. Because the high school is doing some building already there, and then this will be next. I'm not sure what
But
that is.
doesn't the state law require, Kevin, if you can speak to that, about use?
Oh,
Outside use.
State law, does it require?
Right.
Oh, if it's not being used, then it needs to be available to other people, like you were saying. A Donlin question.
It's not a school facility.
I don't know that school laws apply.
Art school. Okay, bottom line, we don't really know all that. Sorry.
But the slide said, the slide that was presented showed that the pool was part of the Weisberg
Right.
school. So is it or is it not?
It's a combination, I think, El Segundo City and Weisberg are both paying. I know El Segundo put 10 million into it, and that's all they did.
Is
think they bought it over, somebody said they were giving it from Norfolk. I'm not sure, I can't go there.
Once again, there.
My question is, please, what is the stadium seating used for and why do we need it? Are we going to rent it out to outsiders? Or is this going to be for community? Or why do we need this 750 stadium seating?
Oh, for the,
Yes, yes. I think what you're referring to is the Performing Arts Education Space at the middle school, which is the building that Kevin pointed out, had a few different locations. And that is classrooms for band, choir, orchestra, and a multi-purpose room, which means, a big flat room, perhaps with a raised area at one end of it, but something that makes it more flexible than, say tiered, auditorium style seating, much like the auditorium at the high school. So it's intended for maximum flexibility for when there is a school event, and also for dividers in classrooms and things for band, choir, orchestra.
I have a question related to that. Can I have the mic? Thank you. On the previous slides that you showed us, Miracosta has 2,500 students, and their theater seats 300 students. We have at middle school 1,500 students, and you want to build a 750, twice the size of Miracosta. The other question I have, and you'll answer that because I don't want to take the mic a second time. We're going to be subjected to a bond, which is not for classroom as we were subjected when the school was built, the middle school. This is for recreational facilities, ancillary services, pools. And it's going to be a cost on the residents of the community. And if it was for classroom, I would understand. But this is for like luxury, recreational, and ancillary. And it's, the citizens are concerned. This is not okay.
Good question.
The first question was comparing the Miracosta to the middle school, and I'll just clarify that. There is an auditorium at Miracosta, and you're right, it is a larger population campus. That auditorium seats 1,500. Yeah, there's an existing auditorium at Miracosta that seats 1,500. What we added was a 300-seat theater, again, teaching space, a flat room that has retractable seating for smaller performances, and again, provide an open space when needed. So it already has a much larger theater. So that was the easy question.
Allow her to answer your question.
And then I believe your second question was just the nature of what we're proposing, and specific to the middle school, some of being luxury. I think maybe you mean the pool when you say that. Well, first of all, most of it is classroom and education space. What's happening at the middle school. Polliwog is a replacement of the pool, and so that may be questionable. And that, again, that will be for the community to determine if it's something they will bear in a bond situation. There is a polling that typically happens to determine where the community's interests lie. And so that remains to be seen. The existing pool is deemed not adequate for its uses, both for the school and for its current community uses of swimming and whatnot, but that remains to be seen.
In the current plan, is there additional parking planned, and where is it going to be, and how will it affect the habitat?
Yeah, currently right now there is proposed additional parking, even though I want everybody to keep in mind the school is not increasing its capacity. And from what it's currently authorized to do. And most of the parking that we're trying to propose is we're limiting access on the 18th Street side by Premier Field that currently now impacts that whole neighborhood to the north for drop off and pickup. And we're suggesting and trying to put the additional parking where it says B up there, which currently they have, I think somewhere around 100 nondescript parking spaces that are hard to find and hard to get to. And we're putting 250 parking spaces up there that can utilize for weekend parking and everything for the park, and also be utilized for pickup and drop off, because the students walking from the middle school to there is not that much farther than walking up into the 18th Street neighborhood. And then they can get directly back on Manhattan Beach Boulevard.
People don't park there, they park on 18th in fact.
I have two follow-up questions that were handed to me regarding parking, so I'll just read them out. If they've already been answered or not, then we can address them. So the first is, where is the parking? Followed by, what standards are used for parking requirements? The next person wrote, is it true that the plan allows for fewer parking spaces than the park currently has, despite the proposed attractions that would create a demand for parking? Another thing. Is studying parking not a required part of your process? Doesn't the city have a say in that? By that I assume that they're referring to the Parking and Public Improvements Commission, if they would have a say.
So, yes, there is additional parking with the plan. I think that covered a lot of the questions on here. There is a process that you have to go through a part of the environmental regulations, the CEQA. Now, there's different categories of how school districts deal with CEQA, but there would have to be a environmental impact study that's done, or at least updated from the one that was done for middle school originally, and put up for public comment, that would determine that restriction on the parking area. Now, when it comes to sizing parking, when you're in a situation like a middle school where if you were building this school brand new out in the suburbs, the Department of Ed would want 20 acres for it, and we have 7 for playfield and everything else. So you're never going to get to the optimum, shall we say. But this doubles the amount of parking that is currently available for that area in the middle school. So I think we're getting closer to the reality. I don't think we could ever overpark it, shall we say. We're doing the best we can.
Yeah, hi. I have a kind of like a two-pronged question. First one has to do with these proposed new amenities, the PAC, the pool, and the kitchens, which may or may not be catered to. Now, is it not true that per the education code for the state of California, that when not in use for school purposes, the school district is required by law to make these available to any and everybody for outside use? That's my first question. I understand that to be part of the education code. So I just want people to understand that these things are not going to be part of the education code. These things are not just going to be used for school purposes. Next question has to do with parking. And as I've discussed with you before, Kevin, those 250 parking spaces there? Well, I'm really well versed with torrential parking patterns, particularly because so much of it occurs right in front of my house. Okay, and what I can tell you is that Manhattan Beach parents do not like to wait. So this parking might be great for events where they're going to be parked for a while, but as far as parking itself as far as pickup and drop-off goes, unless, and I said this before, unless you have points of direct points of ingress and egress, both of them, and you have traffic flow patterns established, what will de facto happen here is they'll eschew the parking lot because they don't want to wait, they don't want to be caught behind somebody, and they'll just all park on 12th Street. So I want to warn the people who live on 12th Street about that. That's why I personally suggested to you that rather than having catering kitchens or kitchens of any sort, since they already do seem to be just fine where they are, as far as child safety, please let me say that they have allowed a situational language for 15 years at the end of Heron Avenue, using that as a de facto pickup and drop-off point. That's already resulted in a serious accident. That's language that the city was sued about, where one of the parents hit one of the children, December of 2010. So what I see is this catering kitchen area, or now Sanford and Sons, maintenance yards. This has direct ingress and egress to Manhattan Beach Boulevard and Peck, and I see this as being a much more effective drop-off space given the actual utilization of, quote, pick-up and drop-off parking.
Thank you for your comments, and I think there was a question there, Stephanie. I get it, yeah. I'm going to let Kevin answer the outside use question, but I'll try and address the other two topics that I took down as parking and catering. to do that now? Okay.
I don't have all the details because I would need to quote education code to you, but there's something called the Civic Center Act, which governs the use of school facilities by outside organizations. Most of the language is permissive and not required language, and it really is governed by policies set by the board. So the board defines when those facilities are to be made available, and certainly all of our facilities are primarily for the use of school programs and school-related organizations. And then the Act provides regulations regarding allowing use for nonprofit organizations and other community groups, and defines schools as civic centers, as places where civic groups may need to congregate in order to meet. But that use is defined as secondary to school use.
So yeah, it's secondary to school use, and I just took a quick glance at the act today myself. I think I come away with slightly different interpretations to the semester. I didn't reread it, but that's definitely something that the community really should look into, is how much these facilities will be used outside of school time by other entities.
Okay, so just a comment on the kitchen.
Excuse me, we still can't hear you. You don't call.
Speak right into the microphone, right in.
Nobody back here can hear.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, so you hold it right up there. Okay. So currently, we provide lunches at all of our school sites. And the kitchen at the middle school is our district location for the food that is sent out to the elementary schools. And they have what are called serving kitchens, which are basically warming and serving, not a lot of preparation. And as the middle school itself has grown and our elementary schools have grown, the capacity of that has become more challenging. And in addition to the fact that trucks are coming on and off the campus to get the food to take it out to the other sites. So what we are proposing or considering in this early designs is that the existing maintenance operation yard that Stephanie mentioned, that's at the corner of Peck and Manhattan Beach Boulevard, we would move a common kitchen there that is just for the purposes of the district. It is not a catering kitchen. And as well as revamping of the maintenance operation yard itself, which hasn't been touched since it was built in the 50s. In terms of parking, I'm not exactly sure there was a question in there. You did comment on parking habits of parents and the ingress and egress, and this has been designed with the intent of working to improve parking, and that was our intent.
First thing is, I don't trust the school board. Can the present school board be trusted to handle the master facility plan? $328 million. That's 5 times the amount for Maricosta High School of $67 million. I want a survey that shows at least 55% of the residents approve the plan. An oversight committee that makes sure the projects are on time and within budget. The $67 million Maricosta High School renovation, a survey to approve the ballot measure was not made available until the day before the election. When we asked Dr. Romaine to release the survey, he stated residents can't see it. It's our survey paid with our money. The school board reaction and survey itself look very suspicious. The school board should be very reluctant to have an oversight committee. I was the only one that went out of 35,000 people. I went to the school board and I said, why don't you have an oversight committee? I remembered Superintendent Gerald Davis and Mary Rogers had been indicted for misappropriation of school funds. And they said, well, that's the old school. We're the new school. Well, anyway, finally they had 15 oversight committee. Let me say one more thing.
Mr. Bush, let me allow them to respond to your questions.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. There is no question.
Thank you. So the question about a survey, when a bond effort is pursued, there is a polling process that happens, and that is to work to understand the intersection of interest and tolerance on a financial level for what is proposed to happen in the district. So we can look at all of the different things that are proposed, and the community can weigh in on what interests them. And for example, when we did Measure BB back in 2008, at that point there was, even though there's many people who felt that there was need for an improved athletics facility, it was something that did not poll well in the process, and so it was not part of that plan. That's just one small example of where the community speaks for what it is interested in supporting the bond. So, and really the ultimate survey is the passing of a bond overall, which happens to have a 5% threshold. And as far as oversight committees, the mic go off.
The whole room's excited with
As far as the oversight committee, again, referring back to Measure BB, we have had an oversight committee throughout all of Measure BB. It did come in on time and on budget, and we would intend, if we go forward with the bond, to do this in a similar fashion. But again, this is so preliminary. We are just getting started.
To make sure, if you're passing a local school bond,
Put the microphone up so we can hear.
We're waiting for it to be turned on by the facility.
if you pass a local school bond, it's a requirement to have a citizens oversight committee, and they actually specify the 9-member requirement or something of who needs to sit on that committee from the various aspects of the community. So it's a requirement. They cannot do anything without it.
Who selects that committee?
Yeah.
The school board, approves
But
it.
that's not fair. That's not it.
Okay, allow him to finish answering the question. The school board.
The school board approves the committee, but the selection of that committee, it's community driven. You can be on the committee. Everybody can apply for it.
If you've got multiple people who want to be a part of it, who selects those individuals?
That would have to be.
I believe it's the school board.
Yes.
I need to address a couple of questions that were handed to me. So, does anyone know how much parkland Manhattan Beach has in comparison with nearby cities and places of a similar size and demographics? I've been told we're deficient in park space, and the proposal only makes it worse.
Well, we've been told we're deficient many times, but I don't know the specifics compared to other cities. I just have heard that a lot, that we are deficient. A lot of Los Angeles is.
Local teams, like kids, second grade on up, swimming there day and night. I mean, it is programmed all the time. So if this, I'm speaking out of turn, but this is seen as a community, not just as a middle school.
Did you have one in the 6th grade?
Pardon me?
Did you have a pool in the 6th grade?
Yeah, actually, I did.
Not
In the
in
high school.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I didn't live by the beach, but there were 3 schools in my town. I mean,
So they had Mariposa, and also Mariposa had a cafeteria where they used that as the all-purpose one. Stage, had cafeteria, plenty of room. I just don't know why we the pool.
We get to the question in the back.
I'll go loud because I can. And once the mic is back on, then other quieter people can go. My name is Barry. I live next door to the park. I walk my dog there. I've got a daughter in middle school and a daughter in high school. Been here since 1999. I probably walked through that park several thousand times. It is a ball. It is so necessary. that we have trees and green space. I was there just the other night, I saw a middle-aged couple just sitting on the hill under a tree eating a takeout dinner. I see people playing soccer into the wee hours, the late into the hours, just guys kicking a ball around. I see people walking their dogs. I'm one of them, the dog park. I'm from a small town in Upper Michigan, 25,000 people, where there's hours of forest everywhere. But this feels like that because Manhattan Beach is a small town. I don't live in LA, I live in New York. I live in Manhattan Beach. And when I heard that there were plans to maybe take down trees, I was appalled. When I heard there were plans to put up big buildings, I was horrified. Now, I'm relatively new to all this, so pardon me if I've covered ground that other people have covered before. I have to say I like the looks of that latest plan better. It leaves the trees in place. I don't like losing the dog park, but it leaves the trees in place. And I'll just, I want to applaud everybody for having a cooperative spirit towards dealing with this. But I think everybody is here today because of trees, of grass, of a place to just walk and just be. There's not a question, but I'll just finish up. I do think Begg Pool does need upgrading. I'll agree with that, because I walk my dog at 5:45 in the morning, and there's a swing team out there. Those people are crazy. That's probably the only time they can get it. So some of these upgrades I think are worthwhile, but the trees.
Thank you for your comments, Barry, and for your projection skills, because that was very good. I just want to say, if this was to go forward in the revised design, as you mentioned, that you are more comfortable with, there is a dog park that replaces the existing dog park because the pool changes and it's larger.
I'm going to read two questions that were sent in, and then I'll move back to the audience. So these are somewhat related to each other. Will the school board exempt themselves from the purchase of the bonds? Who will be entitled to buy these tax-exempt bonds? Will they be offered to insiders first? And then will senior citizens be able to request an exemption from the tax increase? I don't know who can answer. No one in the room. Okay. Well, then we'll lock those up. Let's move on.
Is it working? Oh, it's working. Welcome back.
So. Here you go.
Okay, in the past, we've all seen how they've always proposed something grandiose, and we've gone, Measure BB was, what was it, $47 million? 67.5, I was here for that, and I was here for the two previous. 67.5 to $319 million. I guess the question is, do you really think it's scalable? Can we cut this baby back?
I've been advised not to say this, but it's highly unlikely we're going to do the whole thing. I mean, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it's up to you, all of us, what we do, and what the community will bear. The 300 plus million number just represents everything that was assessed, everything that may be on the table, and then what really happens, it remains to be seen. So I think it's incredibly unlikely we would ever do a bond that large. It's, as you point out, much larger than any others that we've done, but that's my personal opinion.
And then I'll come to the front again. Oh, sorry.
If we could just keep our questions to about 1 minute and our responses to 2 or 3, we'll be able to get to everybody. Thank you.
Mine isn't a question. Mine is a statement. You know, I live at 18th and Peck. That's right on the corner where all this is going to take place. The thing I noticed that you say that nobody rents out anything. Yeah, you say that. The soccer field is rented out, and the school doesn't make the noise till 10 o'clock. It's your rented facility. Now, They make a lot of noise around there. The lights come on, and I mean, you could read a paper in my living room. And I moved in 1982, and I was looking for the tranquil place across the street from this nice park. And it ain't there now. And all you need to do is put some lights and a swimming pool and some seats for people to sit, and then rent it out till 10 o'clock at night. And all the people that live around here,
Let me allow them to respond to that. Do you have a response to that, Carl?
Well, as you said, it was a statement, not a question. I will share that the district and the city are in their third year of a shared use agreement, and that when we are not using our school facilities, the city does use them for everything from Little League to Manhattan Beach Youth Basketball, swim lanes, etc. So that does occur. Again, there really wasn't a question there, but we do have a shared use agreement with the city. It does provide vital funds for the schools and provides vital facilities for the community.
So any of the facility can have a shared use with the city.
It is a agreement with the city, yes.
Yeah, well, that's not nice.
I want to say I'm in support of the school board. I have two kids that went through elementary school, middle school, and high school here. And the schools in Manhattan Beach, I think we all got to recognize that we're benefiting. Our homes are going way up in value because of the school board and the work that these people are doing. And there will be some increase in taxes from what they're talking here. But think about what your home is going up to. And whoever had the question if seniors can be exempt from the bond, I think that's a great question. People on fixed income, if there's a legal way to do that, I think that's a beautiful thing. But I like what you're doing here. My one question is, the people that live next to these facilities, if you're adding more space, you need to add more parking for them. And Polliwog, it may not even be the school district that's really impacting the residents. It's probably the concerts in the park, which are city functions. But the people who live next to the park, they need some additional parking added. And I think the school board should focus on that. But again, you guys are doing a great job.
Is there a response to that?
I'll say thank you again. In the case of parcel taxes, which are another way that schools can fund themselves, there is an opportunity for seniors to opt out. I honestly don't know the answer in the case of bonds, and that's something we can find out about. You're absolutely right about the parking.
I've been a resident here in Manhattan Beach since 1986 and enjoyed every minute of it. Polliwog Park has been a delight for myself and my family. I love the concerts in the park, and it's been a real pleasure to live in Manhattan Beach. I read a treatise today that said that for the bond issue, the taxes property taxes would increase to between 11 and 14%. I think that's a pretty big increase for doing something that I really don't understand what's going on. Why we need a bigger pool, why do we need a performing arts center when the Dono Beach Performing Arts Center is really not doing that well. And performing arts centers aren't doing that well. So I really don't understand the basis for the bond issue. I'd really like to see a breakdown. How much is the pool? How much is the elements of the cost? Thank you.
I can't get
It's cooling down.
In the facility master plan, there is a specific breakdown for every element on every campus, the campus total. And just so everybody's aware, like the Polliwog Park component is a very, very small component to this major effort, and most of it has everything to do with updating the educational facilities at the elementary schools, which is the biggest need in this master plan. The pool was simply there to basically, it's a problem for the middle school and it's been a problem for the community, so it was a good faith effort to say if we're going to do something about the pool, we're going to do it together. So that's, and it's not even, it's only, the cost is only half, we only counted it at half because they wouldn't do it without a partner. So it's far off. When it comes to the bonding, it's a complicated formula for how you assess value homes in Manhattan Beach, but you're limited to a 2% of your assessed value. And my understanding doing the calculations is without the current bond, because you have a current bond you're paying off from the high school, which will get less and less and less and less over the years as you go down. This will not be implemented all at once, and the 319 is a cap. What the district will do with the community is decide where does the community want to support this. It could be 100 million, it could be 20 million, it could be 200 million. Nobody knows yet. So that would come in against the other bond going down. So there's not a 15% or a 14% increase. I don't think that would be mathematically possible on the assessed value, but we don't know what that's going to be until we know what it actually is going to look like, how they're going to implement the plan, if it's going to be implemented at all.
Thank you.
My husband's a principal at Hawthorne High School, and their facilities, the shared facilities, public fields and courts are used 24/7. They're never not used. So I can see the same thing happening with all these facilities at the middle school. My question to you is, would you want to live across the street from this?
I would love to live across the street. I come on the 24/7. Again, we have a shared use agreement with the city, but the city and the school district are very interested in the welfare of the community, and I don't see that we would have activities in that long, but it would be used by the community, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that, just like our facilities already are. It is an asset for the community.
Right here.
Kevin, I've got a question for you on parking. For the facilities that are there, I would assume that there has to be some type of a hard number that says you have such a residential density, you have a park, you have an Olympic pool, you have a preschool that's located with the events that we have at the park. There has to be some kind of a hard number that says for the density of the residents and the activities that take place in this half a square mile area, there has to be a required parking number. This room, there's an occupancy number right on the wall. I can't believe that we can put in this facility and have no idea what the required safe parking quantity is. And if it's a large number and we have to put in a lot, how can we plan anything else until we know how much parking we have to provide?
It's always a good question, but the school districts do not follow city planning ordinances. They are exempt from them. They follow the state of California when it comes to the planning number. Now, when you plan for a school, you do a hard count for what's required for staff, and then you do a guest parking ratio. Now, high school, I don't want to get into that because you have student drivers, you have a whole different issue, and we're not really dealing with parking there, but the 130 parking spaces that are associated with the school more than account for the faculty and the parking required to run the middle school. The problems occur with the drop-off and pickup, which is not a parking problem, it's a drop-off and pickup problem. So they're two separate issues, but to count it, like for the park, The city could say, hey, we don't want to do anything to the park unless we can provide this many parking spaces, but the city is the purveyor of the park. The district owns the land, the city built the park. So anything that we're trying to do on school district property that would help alleviate the parking with the park is what the goal was. To come up with a number to park the park, I don't even know where you would begin to come up with a number, because you'd have to plan for the largest event that could possibly be held there, one of the concerts, and you would never be able to park the concert in a parking lot on the park.
So then there's not adequate parking. If we have people showing up to go to an event and there's no place for them to park, then
I think that was the intent with the revised plan, to make sure that no facility is being designed that is increasing the current activity of the park. That was the whole driving force, but still add more parking than is currently exists to help alleviate the problem that currently exists.
if they're gonna build the mall, they're gonna expand the mall, there's some number that says you must provide. They don't know what day people are gonna go shopping. They don't know when they're gonna show up. They don't know if they're all gonna come at once. But they provide, I guarantee you in that plan, it says 1,000 parking places.
They do have a plan when you have an occupancy count in a physical facility, but for a park facility, there is not a formula that drives a parking number, because you don't know what the use of the park is.
And the 750-seat auditorium does not enter into that?
Well, I want to make it clear, this is a multi-purpose room. It is not a performing arts center. It's a large multi-purpose room that has retractable seating, but it's the same purpose of an existing multi-purpose room, except they needed to accommodate more than 400 students. They needed to accommodate half of their current student population for teaching, events, lectures, and their theater program. So it's a multi-purpose room. It's not intended to be a theater like the Redondo Beach Theater, that would be a tiered seat, rentable, fly tower performance space. It is a middle school multi-purpose room, just like they have now with a stage attached.
Only intended for the use of students, not parents.
Well, I'm sure parents will come to events that are performances there.
Where do they park?
Well, currently they have events at the school district, and my understanding is they expand the playfield area. They park in the back.
In the back area, the whole laptop area and tennis courts or anything is all.
But the point being is they're not increasing the population of the school or the parents that own the children that go to that school. So we're not assuming that it's going to own, excuse my phrase, the parents of the children that go to the school. So I don't think we're increasing the current problem. We're trying to alleviate it with adding more parking on the other side.
Because we're about to have the lights turned out on us again, we're going to accommodate one more question, and then after that I'm going to give each of our speakers, Ms. Rosenberg, Ms. Profet, a couple of minutes to speak to you about how to continue this conversation with each of them. And then I will have just a few housekeeping things. I do, at this time, want to say that I'm very sorry that some of you had to stand, and hopefully next time we'll be able to accommodate more seats in here. We'll take one last question from the back.
I should put my hand up over so I don't know what I did wrong.
So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to agree with the gentleman to my right who said that the school board has been doing a great job because Manhattan Beach does have excellent schools. So as far as the skills needed to deliver a great education to our children, you've been doing that. I would like to question though, do you have the skills on the board to evaluate a facilities master plan? Those are different skills than what you have on the board now. And so that's one question. And if you don't have the skills, do you know what skills you need to bring into an advisory committee to help you to make sure that whatever happens, whatever version of this happens, it doesn't misstep? And I think that addresses a lot of the issues that you've heard. I've just turned it into a question, and it's an important one. Things like, there was a 10% contingency, I think, in this $319 million, but I haven't the vaguest idea of how you came up with that number. I mean, I used to run multi-million-dollar projects, And I know how I estimated contingency based on a bunch of stuff, and I don't know how, whether it was a plug number or based on, who knows. So those are the kinds of skills I mean, and it's something to think about. So are they there, and do you know what skills you need? The second question is for Kevin. And Kevin, I'm a little dismayed that you had that many iterations of a master plan. I mean, it was like one a month. And I can't imagine that it was an efficient way to go. So my question is, how come there were so many iterations, and how come in none except that last iteration did DLR ever think about the significant environmental impact that Julie presented at the top end of this? That's huge. The storm drainage, the habitat, all of those other things. And you said it wasn't until that last version that you even thought about the environmental impact. And maybe there's a good reason for it, I don't know. But that disturbs me that it didn't come.
To respond to.
Yeah.
It's Elise, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Elise. First of all, thank you for saying you have confidence in the board. I appreciate that. And then following it up with hard questions. The board has we just completed Measure BB, where we brought many different skill sets beyond the board to bear and ended the project successfully. So my answer to your question is, does the board have the skill set? Every single one? No, but we will bring the right resources to bear, as we just did with Measure BB, from bond expertise to oversight to construction to design, etc. And I'm happy to say that we've just gone through this since 2008 to the present, and are ready to do that again. And then I guess it went to Kevin's question.
My inability to get it right the first time, which I don't know how to answer, because part of my job is to listen, and sometimes you don't always hear what somebody is telling you until we finally sat down with Stephanie and Julie one-to-one. It wasn't at a board meeting or at some kind of statement driven or responding to an article in the newspaper. It was sitting down, and quite frankly, it was me going there on a weekend and sitting in the park and having lunch. It was part of it too. Because I'm trying to master plan the middle school, who happens to be on the Polliwog Park, and it takes some time to make sure that you're looking at everything equally from all sides. And I just thank the Friends of Polliwog Park for outlining all the important things in the park, and I think we all came to a better agreement, understanding, and realization about the beauty and the importance of the park. So, yes, it may have taken longer to get there than some other people, but we got there. And that's actually the important side. And that was the one that we had the most iterations. Most of the other ones went far more smoothly.
Would you like to tell the audience how they can continue this conversation?
Yes. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's been great hearing all of your opinions of the park, your love for the park, and I'm glad we share that. We've been around for about a year. We formed our neighborhood just when we found out there was a skate park being planned for Polliwog. So a few of our neighbors exchanged emails and said, let's come up with a name, Friends of Polliwog. And we have periodical meetings. Whenever something comes up, we email everybody to get the word out and decide how to go about helping fix it. We go to council meetings, we keep our eye on things. So our website is mbUSD.org. It stands for Manhattan Beach Friends of Polliwog Park.org. So if you want to come and join our website, join our group, just come give us your email address that way and you'll be a member. It's free. Thanks so much.
I so admire FOPP, particularly that you're a 1-year-old in that, because one of the most organized, and effective groups that I've seen, and really does a lot of good for the city. So thank you so much for everyone who worked to form that. And what I want to point out is we too really would love to gather your information, and I was encouraging people to do that as they came in. They kind of gave me a sideways look. We have parent data, electronic ways to communicate with parents. We do not have it for non-parents, and the city is very gracious and will give us mailing labels, but we really try not to do hard copy mailings for cost and for environmental reasons. So if you want to hear more about this, if you want to continue this dialogue, please, it's not very fancy, it's a yellow pen back, please share your email information, and because we would love to be, or a phone number if you're not into email, and we would love to be able to keep sharing information with you and seek information from you. So I hope that you're willing to do that now. And you can also always go to MBUSD.org to communicate with the board, to communicate with administration. And I want to thank our MBUSD president, Sean Chen, who's in the back of the room, for always being so involved. Because this really is about teachers in addition to students, because that is what creates the machine, the energy, the brilliance that allows our students to excel. So thank you, Sean, for being here, and thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I do want to say, if any of you are interested in supporting the continued efforts of Manhattan Beach Residents Association, you can visit manhattanbeachresidenceassociation.org. Correct? All spelled out. Thank you so much for your support tonight. Yes, I believe that's